A lot of you wanted a second part to the clown stories, and honestly, with all the creepy clown sightings happening again, now felt like the right time to share one more. Just 3 days ago, I had an encounter of my own. Not one of those harmless sightings people talk about from the safety of their cars, but something far more personal and disturbing. I live in Massachusetts on a property surrounded by thick woods and a long, winding driveway that connects to the main road. That afternoon, I was trimming a low branch near the entrance when I saw him. A man dressed as a clown, slowly walking down the roadside. He stopped right where my driveway began, standing perfectly still. His head turned toward me, but his body stayed facing the road. Even from that distance, his mask looked straight out of a horror movie, white, cracked, and exaggeratedly grim. I couldn't help but smirk a little, half expecting him to charge at me like people said clowns were doing online. But he didn't. He simply turned his head back to the road and walked away without a sound. I considered calling out to him, but figured it wasn't worth the trouble. Later that night, after locking up the shed and turning off the lights outside, I went into the kitchen to make dinner. That's when I thought I heard something outside. A faint rustling carried by the wind. I opened the kitchen window a bit to listen, but all I could hear were the leaves swaying. I shut it again and tried to shake off the unease. Then, out of nowhere, a loud, forceful knock rattled the same window I had just closed. My heart jumped into my throat. I froze, my hands trembling, and every instinct in my body screamed danger. I grabbed the kitchen knife sitting on the counter and hesitated before peering out the window. But it was pitch black. I couldn't see a thing. Gathering what little courage I had left, I reached for the patio light switch by the sliding glass door. I hesitated for several seconds before flipping it on, and immediately wished I hadn't. Standing just outside the glass door was the same clown from earlier, head tilted like a curious dog, staring straight at me through the mask. My first thought was to unlock the door and confront him, maybe even scare him off, but fear completely took over. Instead, I bolted upstairs, grabbed the phone, and called the police. From my room I could hear the pounding on the glass below. Louder, faster, more violent. The clown began shrieking, not laughing but screaming, the kind of sound that chills you to the core. Every passing minute felt endless, as I waited for sirens that never seemed to come. Finally, the chaos stopped when I heard a familiar voice outside shouting angrily. It was my neighbor, Marv, and he had his hunting rifle in hand. He told me the clown bolted into the woods the second he showed up. The police arrived a few minutes later, took my statement, searched the property, and assured me they'd keep patrols in the area. Marv insisted I spend the night at his place, and believe me, I didn't argue. Around here, we don't take chances when it comes to safety. So yeah, that was 3 nights ago. And ever since, I can't shake the image of that clown's mask under the light, his head tilted, as if he was waiting for something. A few days after what happened at my house, things only got stranger. It started with an Instagram account that appeared out of nowhere, supposedly run by a group of clowns who claimed they were coming to my school. Most of us thought it was a joke, just another attempt to scare people online. But the police didn't take it lightly. Within hours, they had officers monitoring the area, and even the local SWAT team was put on alert. The supposed attack time was set for 11 a.m., so when the clock neared that hour, you could feel the tension buzzing through every hallway. Some kids were panicking, others nervously laughing it off. My friends and I tried to stay calm, figuring it was probably just another prank blown out of proportion. Still, when the vice principal's shaky voice suddenly echoed over the loudspeaker, "We are now going into lockdown. Teachers, please secure your rooms." My stomach dropped. The classroom went completely silent. Our teacher hurried to lock the door and close the blinds, and we all huddled together in the corner, away from sight. Nobody dared to whisper. Even the sound of someone breathing too loudly made the room feel smaller. We waited like that for what felt like forever. Nearly an hour. And a half of absolute silence, with only the faint hum of the air conditioner and distant footsteps in the hall breaking through. Finally, the intercom clicked again. The vice principal announced the lockdown was over and that we could all go home since the school day was nearly done. Relief washed over everyone instantly. I packed my bag, eager to leave, and started walking home. My house was about a mile away, a quick 20-minute walk, and I usually enjoyed it. But after the lockdown, the air felt heavier than usual, and every sound from the nearby woods made me tense up. A few minutes into the walk, I popped in my earbuds to distract myself. The path ran past a couple of wooded strips, which suddenly didn't feel as harmless as before. About halfway home, something caught my eye. Flashes of bright color through the trees. At first, I told myself it was nothing, maybe just a flag or someone's jacket. But when I looked again, I froze. Someone was standing there. They wore filthy, torn, baggy pants with faded yellow and white polka dots, and a ripped yellow shirt to match. A clown mask with messy red hair framed their face, tilted slightly as if studying me. Then came the laughter, high-pitched, erratic, and completely wrong. The clown started sprinting straight toward me. I dropped my backpack and ran back toward the school as fast as I could, screaming for help. By some miracle, a police officer was still stationed near the entrance. I rushed up to him, gasping out what had happened. His expression hardened immediately, and within seconds more officers jumped into their patrol cars and sped toward the direction I pointed. I don't know if they ever caught that clown, but later, rumors spread that someone matching his description had been seen approaching the school's front entrance, supposedly threatening to come inside before disappearing again. Whether it was the same clown from the road or another one entirely, nobody really knew. The police spent hours combing the woods but found nothing. All I know is that the clown, whoever he was, managed to vanish without a trace. And that thought alone was enough to make everyone at school a little more afraid to walk home that week. It was late, around 1 in the morning, on Friday, October 7th, 2016. I was walking home from my friend's house after hanging out for a while. I wasn't drunk, just a little buzzed, and my head was clear enough to know I wanted to get home fast. My friend lived about a mile away, so it was usually an easy walk. At the end of the main street near his place was a T intersection. One road led back toward my house, the other curved into a long loop, but right between them was a trail, a dark, narrow path through the woods that connected directly to my neighborhood. During the day, it was the perfect shortcut. At night, though, it was a different story. There weren't any lights in there, just trees, dirt, and silence. Normally, I avoided it after dark, but that night I figured saving 10 minutes was worth it. I pulled out my phone, switched on the flashlight, and started down the trail. The woods were completely still except for the crunch of my shoes against dry leaves. About halfway in, maybe 50 yards, I heard something ahead. At first I thought it was nothing, maybe an animal. But the sounds were rhythmic, steady, footsteps, more than one set. I froze, turned off my light, and pressed myself behind a large tree, trying to stay silent. The footsteps got louder, clearer. Whoever it was, they weren't talking, just walking. And then they stopped. My heart pounded so hard it felt like I could hear it echoing in the dark. I held my breath, afraid even a whisper of sound would give me away. Slowly, I peeked around the tree, and what I saw sent a cold shock through my body. 2 figures stood on the trail wearing clown costumes. Their outfits were dirty, their faces hidden behind masks, and they were completely still. I realized they must have seen the light from my phone earlier. They knew someone was there. For what felt like an eternity, they didn't move. Then one of them shifted slightly, and the 2 began walking again. Slow, deliberate steps crunching through the leaves as they continued down the path. The second they were far enough away, I bolted. I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I ran as fast as my legs would carry me, crashing through branches and leaves until I finally saw the end of the trail. My house was right across the street. I sprinted to the back door, grabbed the spare key from under the flower pot, and slipped inside, locking the door behind me. My mom was asleep upstairs. I didn't want to wake her. I just needed to calm down. I went to the living room to shut the blinds, but when I looked out the window, my breath caught in my throat. Across the street, at the edge of the woods, the same 2 clowns stood motionless, facing my house. I couldn't tell if they were looking directly at me, but I felt it, that deep, icy sense of being watched. I backed away slowly and ran to wake my mom. She came downstairs immediately, grabbing the pepper spray she kept under the bed, but by the time she looked outside, they were gone. She believed me completely. No questions, no doubt. She knew something was wrong. The next morning, she called the police and reported everything. They promised to keep an eye on the neighborhood. I wish that had been the end of it. But last night when I looked out my window before bed, I saw him again. One clown standing in the same spot near the woods, just staring at my house. I don't know what he wants, or if he's even real anymore. But I've made up my mind. Next time he shows up, I'm getting proof. A photo, a video, something. Because until then, all I have are these stories, and the feeling that somewhere out there he's still watching.